Hey, welcome back to my channel, Iraqi Dinar News Update. Here's the US dollars, USD, considering economic, geopolitical, and monetary policy realities in Iraq and Vietnam, alongside global financial system trends. When will the Iraqi dinar, IQD, and Vietnamese dong rise in exchange value against the US dollars, USD? 1. Introduction. The quest for currency revaluation, both Iraq and Vietnam, have long been the focus of speculation about currency revaluations, RV. Enthusiasts believe that the Iraqi dinar IQD and the Vietnamese dong VND are undervalued and will eventually rise sharply against the US dollars USD. However, revaluation is complex. It depends not only on internal factors such as economic growth, inflation, and reserves, but also on global monetary policy, US dollar strength, and international trade systems. Understanding currency revaluation and exchange rates. A currency revaluation means a government or central bank increases the official exchange rate of its currency relative to a foreign currency or basket of currencies. For a higher value of IQD or VND per 1 USD, e.g. 1 USD per 1,000 IQD instead of 1,310 IQD. Key drivers of currency appreciation, foreign reserves increase, improved trade balance, political and monetary stability, rising investor confidence, de-dollarization or depeg from USD3. Iraq and the Iraqi dinar IQD. Background and current status 3.1 Overview. Iraq's dinar has been a managed currency. Since 2003, Iraq has used a crawling peg to the US dollar. For nearly 2 decades, Iraq's currency has been kept stable to facilitate trade and stability amid war, reconstruction, and oil dependency. 3.2 Recent developments. 2025 CB tightened USD access to curb smuggling and corruption. Dollar shortage after the US stopped cash dollar shipments in late 2023. Foreign reserves increased to around 7 billion and gold reserves to 53 tons. IMF and US pressure pushed Iraq to join global anti-money laundering compliance. The official rate was early 2023 to 1,300 IQD per US 3.3, while Iraq might revalue IQD. Iraq holds massive oil reserves, 5th in the world. With non-oil reforms, Iraq seeks to move from a cash economy to a digital banking system. The Iraqi Stock Exchange, ISEX, is gaining foreign attention. If Iraq abandons dollar peg and shifts to a basket of currencies, IQD could appreciate. Efforts to dollarize trade, especially with Iran, China, and Turkey, using IQD, CNY, and aided. 3.4 Wide aviation may be delayed. Iraq is still largely dependent on oil revenues, 90% of budget. The parallel market rate is still significantly higher, 4.55 USD. Lack of full compliance with global banking standards, corruption, political instability, and regional conflicts hinder investor confidence. 4. Vietnam and the Vietnamese dong VND. Background and current status 4.1 Overview. Vietnam's dong is not a free floating currency. It is tightly managed by the State Bank of Vietnam, SBV. It has been historically weak due to inflation, trade imbalances, and underdevelopment. However, Vietnam has emerged as a manufacturing powerhouse. 4.2 Recent trends. Vietnam maintains a trade surplus, especially with the US GDP growth remains strong, 5.5% expected in 2025. FDI inflows are rising. Dong depreciated moderately against USD in 2023-2024 due to strong dollar policy globally. SBV uses a crawling peg with a trading band of 5% from the reference rate. 4.3 ND might revalue. Vietnam is transitioning into a middle-income economy. Diversification away from China by global firms helps Vietnam. Vietnam is part of RCEP and CPTPP, boosting export competitiveness. The US removed currency manipulator status in 2023, boosting VND's international credibility. Growth in digital economy, tourism, and green energy makes dong more attractive. 4.4 Why VND revaluation may be limited. SBV wants to keep exports cheap, so won't allow sudden revaluation. Inflation control remains a priority. Dong could appreciate gradually, not through a shock. RV5. Global dollar dominance and its impact on IQD and VND 5.1 dollar pegs, and trade. Iraq and Vietnam both trade heavily in US dollars. The dollar peg makes currency stability easier but limits monetary sovereignty. With the US halting dollar shipments to Iraq and pressure on global de-dollarization, both countries may shift to alternative currency baskets or BRICS systems. 5.2 Impact of US monetary policy. High US interest rates support a strong dollar, keeping pressure on emerging market currencies. Once the Fed cuts rates, emerging market currencies like IQD, VND may strengthen. 5.3 BRICS and de-dollarization. Iraq has economic ties with China, and Vietnam is increasing trade with BRICS nations. Iraq and Vietnam may explore cross-border settlement in gold-backed or regional currencies in the next 3-5 years. 6. Will a revaluation happen soon? One Iraqi dinar outlook 2025 third year potential IQD USD scenario from 300 official and 45 is parallel. Minor tightening 2026 further reforms. See by pushes for digital dinar. Potential basket peg CNY IQD gains value 2028-2030 valuation possible to 1 or those who 1 or higher, but only if Iraq fully stabilizes. Conditions required: full IMF and FDF compliance, control of corruption and parallel market, non-oil revenue growth tax, agriculture, tourism, shift away from dollar transactions. 2023 potential VD USD scenario 2025 over 2024 2020 to 400 VN USD 2026 strengthens interest rates, drops 2027 gradual appreciation of 23,000 24 to 2030 could revalue slightly 22 or 120,000 depending on reforms conditions required. Further manufacturing growth and tech industry expansion, reduced dependence on exports to one country, strengthen domestic demand and wage growth. 7. Factors delaying IQD and VND revaluations, common obstacles, pegging to a strong USD in a high interest world, need for central bank control over inflation, export dependency, especially Vietnam, political and regional instability, especially Iraq, IMF program compliance and dollar auditing, especially Iraq. 8. Could a global currency reset at GCR for quantum financial system QFS trigger revaluation? Some analysts link the RV of IQ and VN to a global currency reset, GCR, or quantum financial system, QFS, often discussed in speculative or alternative finance circles. Prospects: Iraq and Vietnam could benefit from a gold asset-backed system. Gold reserves are rising in both countries. Iraq holds 16.3 tons. A future multilateral BRICS financial system might push for new currency valuations based on tangible assets like oil and gold. However, there's no confirmed evidence from the IMF or central banks that a GCR or QFS will be implemented soon. Revaluation will likely depend on organic economic reforms, not just a global event. 9. Conclusion: what to expect of short-term to 25. No major IQD or VND revaluation expected. IQD may tighten spread between official and market rate. VND may gradually appreciate with trade surplus and inflows. Medium term to 6/28, Iraq may switch pegs or move to a currency basket, giving IQD more room to rise. Vietnam will likely continue managing VND appreciation slowly to maintain competitiveness. Long-term 2029-2035 to IQD RV is possible if Iraq stabilizes, fully implements reforms, and de-dollarizes. VND could become a regional reserve currency, especially in SCN and RCEP trade. 10. Final thought: revaluation isn't just a button that central banks push. It's a process of trust built on reforms, reserves, economic credibility, and regional integration. While speculation may be tempting, the real value of the IQD or VND will rise only when global markets, not just governments, believe in it. Patience, reforms, and structural shifts are the real catalysts, not rumors. If you'd like, I can also provide a monthly tracker of IQD VND reforms. Write a summary in Arabic or Vietnamese. Break this into an infographic or timeline format. Change rates for Sunday, July 27, 2020 for Baghdad. Selling 100 and 133 IQD, buying 100 139 to an IQD Erbil. Selling 100 139 450 IQD, buying 100 Basra. Selling 100 150 Zalos and IQD, buying 100 139 250 IQD. The official central bank of Iraq rate stands at 1320 IQD to 1.